All right. Well, in today's video, I got a little frog in my throat there. I want to talk about hidden fees in audit certifications. And so, a lot of times people don't know about this. And so, I wanted to kind of share some information about that, where some of the hidden fees are, so that you can actually determine what it's really going to cost you from an investment standpoint to do certain certifications, and also give you some advice here at the end on kind of some ways that you can avoid some of these hidden charges. Okay. Now, there are different models that organizations use. And so I'm going to talk about a couple of them to just kind of explain so you can start to kind of figure out, because I know I talk to a lot of people and they don't realize usually how much money they're going to have to invest and how much time they're going to have to invest until they get a long ways down the process. And by that point, they've spent a lot of money, they've spent a lot of time, and some of them just kind of give up at that point. And, I don't want anybody to waste any time. I don't want you to waste any money. I want to make sure that you know exactly what you're getting into, and some of the tricks that these organizations use to kind of not be upfront with you on how much it's actually going to cost you. Okay. Now, I did a recent poll also on LinkedIn, and was just asking some people some questions about, based on kind of the traditional certification model, what are some things you would like to see different? And so, on LinkedIn, I'm only allowed to do kind of 4 options. So I kind of picked 4 options. And I was really surprised actually at the results. Over 60% of the people, and it was closer to, 60 to 70% of the people said the one thing they would like to see changed is no annual renewal fees. And I understand that. I think that annual renewal fees for certifications is something that is not right. That's just my opinion. But whether you believe that or not, let me ask you some questions, right? So, does your university require you to pay them every year so that you can continue to say that you have your degree? Mine don't. Okay, I got my bachelor's from Boise State University. I got my master's from the University of Southern California. I don't get sent a bill from either one of those universities asking me to pay them, or even to submit CPE to prove that I still know what I'm talking about for my business degree and my master's in business. Okay. So I don't understand why organizations require that from a certification perspective. It's different if it's a license, like a CPA license. I understand that. But professional organizations charging annual fees, making you submit CPE and pay sometimes for your CPE, I don't see that I don't understand that. I don't think that we need to do that in today's day and age. So let's talk a little bit about where some of these hidden fees are, so that you understand where they're at and how much, certifications may actually, how much you need to invest in certifications. And then, like I said, I'll give you some options as well for ways that you can avoid some of these fees. Okay. Now, there's a couple of different models that organizations tend to follow, because a lot of the organizations that are giving certifications are membership-driven organizations. And so what they really want you to do is pay them a membership fee every single year. That's what their goal really is. And so different organizations use kind of a different model to encourage people to be members and to stay members of their organization. Okay. And so one business model that I've seen use with a company that I worked with a little bit before is they chose not to charge for certifications. So instead, they wanted people to become members of their organization. And by being a quote unquote member, you could take their certifications, get their certifications for free. So there was no testing fee. There was, no separate training fee associated with it, but you could get the certifications for free. Now, here was the catch. Okay. The catch was if you ever stopped being a member of that organization, they would take away your certifications. So they're telling you that they're not charging you for the certifications, right? But they are charging you for the certifications. It's just called membership, right? And so this particular organization, I think they charge about $400 to $500 a year. And so effectively, you had to stay a member and pay that fee for your whole career. Now, kind of a tricky thing that they would do is they didn't just offer one certification, they would offer multiple certifications. And the more certifications that one gets, the less likely they are to cancel their membership. Because when you cancel your membership, they take away your certifications. Again, I don't agree with that philosophy. I actually discouraged them from doing it. I did not think it was a good idea, but their organization, they choose to do what they wanted to do. And so in that instance, some people look at it and say, hey, there's no certification fee for me to do this, and so they think that it's free or pretty much free. But what they forget is that they have to pay that $400 or $500 for the rest of your career. And so again, if you're in the career for 20 years, that's $10,000 that you have to pay this organization for your certification. And again, like I said, some people aren't aware of that, and that's why I'm trying to share some of this information, right? Because you might look at it and think, oh, well, it's really cheap for me to do this. It's really easy for me to do this, but not realize how much you're going to end up paying over the life of your career. So in that instance, it could be over 20 years, $8,000 to $10,000 that you're really paying for that certification. Okay. And again, you can choose to do that option if you want to. But I just want you to be aware, right, of what some of these fees are so that you don't get in, you do it, and then you get surprised a couple of years later when you're like, man, I got to pay this fee every single year, right? And like I said, if that's the way you are, I was that way as well. I didn't like having to pay the fee every year. And so, in fact, I stopped paying it, which meant that they, quote unquote, took away my certifications. Well, I still think I have them. I don't care whether they think I do or not. I earned them, and I've never taken them off of my LinkedIn profile. So there we go. Another way, especially from an internal audit perspective, is the Certified Internal Auditor, CIA certification. And again, this is one where I call it kind of you get nickeled and dimed, meaning you pay a little bit here, you pay a little bit there, you pay a little bit here, you pay a little bit there. And so because you're paying a little bit each time, you don't realize how much you're actually paying in total. And so I want to go through and just kind of share with you the facts behind it so that, again, if that's one that you're choosing to do, you may be doing it now, you may be thinking you want to do it. I just want to make sure that you understand what some of these hidden fees actually are. So with that certification, it's through the IIA. And the first thing you have to do is you have to pay an application fee. So you have to pay, it's I think $250 or $300. I'm not sure exactly what it is now, but you have to pay an application fee, right, for the honor of being able to take the tests and do all the stuff. And so they kind of set up a gate at that point and say, well, you got to pay me money. You got to fill out an application, and I've got to tell you whether or not we think you're good enough to take our certification. So again, it's only, maybe $250 to begin with. And so people don't really realize or think about it too much. They pay it, they fill out the application. Okay. Next, you have to pay $250 to $300 per exam. And there's 3 different exams that you have to take for that particular certification. So all of a sudden, that $250 that you invested now has already become $1,000, right? Because you've got 3 more exams plus the application fee. You're into it for at least $1,000. Now, that's before you have even done any studying or anything like that at all, right? You're into it $1,000, and then you realize, oh, I probably need some study materials, which again, the IIA offers. I think they're about $1,000. And so now you're into it $2,000, with just the exam fees to begin with, the application fee, buying some sort of study material. And so before you know it, that $250 turns into $2,000 and you don't even realize it. Okay. But wait, there's more, right? The exams are written so that only about 40% of the people pass the exams, which means most people that are getting that certification have to take the exams multiple times. In fact, for part 1, I think usually people have to take it 2 to 3 times on average. Part 2, 1 to 2 times. Part 3, people have to take on average 4 to 5 times. And so all of a sudden now, you pay for the exam. Let's say you fail. Well, you got to pay again to take the exam the next time. You got to pay the test fee again next time that you take the test. And so what ends up happening is people end up, spending years usually taking the exams because they don't pass them the first time. And then they have to pay, additional retesting fees. And so again, let's just pretend that you're very good. Maybe you pass some of them you don't pass. More likely than not, you're going to spend at least another $1,000 on retesting fees. And so now all of a sudden, what seemed like you were just starting off at $250, you've spent $3,000 on just trying to take this exam, right? And again, that $3,000 is probably a lot more than people expected when they were first getting into this. And that's why I'm sharing this, because I want you to know exactly what you're getting into. Okay. So let's say again, you invest the $3,000, you invest hundreds of hours of time studying, because again, to take each of those exams, people usually spend at least 100 to 150 hours per exam, which means you're probably spending 500 hours of time studying. And again, that might not seem like a lot, except it's a quarter of a year of full-time work. Okay, so it's a significant amount of time. And again, most people, they're working a full-time job, and so they have to fit that into their own personal life, which means usually it's time away from their job, it's time away from their family, it's time away from their hobbies. Okay. And so again, that's a cost that you really do need to consider, is how much is your time worth? The $3,000 is just cash that you paid, but there's also time that you have to invest as well. And so if you're investing, like I said, 500 hours or more, how much is your time worth an hour? Well, I'm guessing it's at least worth $10 an hour, right? Because that's kind of minimum wage here in the US. Well, that's another $5,000 of your time. You're not paying it in cash, but it's $5,000 of your time at least that you could have been doing something else. Okay, so again, let's say that you get through this, you paid your $3,000, you've spent the years, you got the certification, hallelujah, you passed the exam. And now you need to be a member of the IIA. And so again, you pay them about $300 a year uh, to be a member. And again, they tell you that you don't have to be a member to have your certification, but you do, even though they tell you that you don't. And so I'm going to give you a story from my own life that shows you what I mean by this. So I got my CIA, I got my CGAP, which was a government auditing professional certification that they no longer offer, and I got my CRMA. So I had 3 different certifications from the IIA. And so for a long time, I was a member. I was a local volunteer. I served on international committees. I did a whole bunch of different things. And so I was paying my membership every year. And after a while, when I'm paying for it myself instead of my employer paying for it, I started questioning how much value I was actually getting out of that membership. And so for a few years, I kind of questioned, whether or not I should keep paying that membership fee or not. And finally, there were some things that happened that I didn't really agree with. And I said, you know what? I am not getting value from my membership. So I canceled my membership. I stopped paying my annual membership. Now, the next year, I receive an email that says, oh, it's time for you to submit your CPE. And so I said, okay, great. So I went out onto the website and I went to register my CPE, which for the IIA is marking a checkbox that says I've done the number of hours I need to do. I clicked all the boxes and I hit continue. And up came a checkout screen where I had to pay in order to submit my CPE, something I never had to do before as a member. It was quote unquote included in my price, or at least one of them was included in my price. So I paid a little bit less for the other ones. And what I realized when I went through this process and I was no longer a member, it was going to cost me a lot more money just to submit my CPE form than it was to be a member. Why? Because they wanted me to continue to pay them every single year. Now, at that point, I got pretty pissed off. I did some posts on LinkedIn about it. And I decided for myself that I was not going to be extorted and made to pay much more money to an organization that I no longer wanted to be a member of. And so because of that, I did not submit my CPE. And I get a letter or an email that says, you failed to file your CPE. We're going to take your certificates from you. Again, I got pissed off about that. I did some posts on LinkedIn. And so where I'm getting at with that is hopefully you can understand that you might be told you don't have to be a member of the IIA. You can keep your certificate. Well, you can as long as you pay more money than the membership actually is. So what is really going on here? They're not telling you, but it really is a requirement for you to be a member of the IIA to be able to keep your certificates. Okay. And I think that's wrong. I disagree with it. Like I said before, your university doesn't require that. I don't know why they do either. Okay. But they do. And like I said, over 60%, close to 65% of people don't like having to pay every year. And I totally understand. Okay. So again, I just kind of explained to you some of the different ways that certification kind of adds some hidden fees that you don't really realize about. Okay. And again, I just want you to be aware of it. If these are still things that you want to do, by all means, go ahead and do it. I just want you to know how much money you need to save or how much you realize you're going to be investing if you go down that route. Now, at the beginning of the video, I told you I would also show you how you can avoid some of those hidden fees. And again, I just told you the story about 2 different professional organizations and kind of the business model that they use. But most people who issue certifications follow one of those business models or something very close to it. And so it really kind of requires you to pay them annually. Well, you don't have to do that if you're willing to get a different certification. Those are not the only certifications that are out there. And in fact, I have up on the screen ondemand.criskacademy.com. Did you know that C-Risk Academy actually offers the most internal audit certifications and certificates of anyone? You probably didn't know that. Because millions of dollars of marketing money have gone to you to tell you that you can only get the CIA. Well, did you know that there's a lot of options out there besides the CIA? You may or you may not have known that, right? And so again, I'm just trying to share with you. You can decide what's best for you. But here's what I can tell you. A lot of those little hidden fees and tricks that other professional organizations use, C-Risk Academy does not use. You don't have to be a member of C-Risk Academy. There is no membership for C-Risk Academy, okay? You don't have to pay testing fees. You don't have to pay retesting fees. You don't have to take tricky exams that only 40% of the people can pass. You don't have to have education or experience requirements, right? These are new kinds of certifications for the modern auditor. They don't require some of the, in my opinion, stupid things that people have to go through for some of the certifications that other bodies are offering. Now, is there a cost to it? Yes, but everything is upfront, right? There's no hidden fees. You go out to the website, you see what the price is, and that's all you ever pay. Okay, I'm going to say that again. You go out to the website, you see the price, that is the price that you pay. That's it, right? The training that goes along with it, the test, the certification, all of that is included in that one price. Now, they're also affordable, right? They're between about $1,300 and $2,000. And so again, when a lot of people go out there and they see that, they're like, whoa, well, that's more money than the CIA is. Again, go back, re-listen to this video again, right? But you're into the CIA $2,000 to $3,000 before you even realize it. They just don't tell you that number up front. They give you 250 here and 300 there, and you have to be the one that does the math because there's no transparency in how much it's actually going to cost you. There is transparency at C-Risk Academy. What you see is what you pay. No annual renewal fees, no other hidden fees, behind the scenes on it. And in fact, most of these, instead of taking years to get, right? Because again, I told you, most people take 2 to 5 years to pass the CIA exam. Most people can get the C-Risk Academy certifications in 1 to 2 months, right? There's usually a course that goes along with it, 40 or 50 hours. You do some studying, maybe at the outset, 100 hours, and you take the exam and you pass the exam, because the exam is not meant to be tricky. It's not meant to, be all theoretical and academic. It's purely based on the information in the course and making sure that you actually went through the course and you understand the basics, right? And so again, most people pass the exam the first time. If you don't, guess what? You just take the exam again. There's no fee, right? You take it. Let's say you didn't pass. You just go back and take the exam again when you are ready to take it, and you're guaranteed to pass, right? It might not be the first time. For most people, it is. Probably 80 or 90% of the people, they pass the exam the first time. If you don't, it's really no big deal, right? You just go back and have to take the exam again. And so anyway, like I said, I just wanted to jump on here today and kind of highlight some of the hidden fees that are out there in most audit certifications, just to make sure that you have the information. Because like I said, you have to be the one who decides what you want to do. Do you want to get the CIA? Do you want to get some other audit certification? Do you want to do the ones with C Risk Academy? You have to decide, and only you can decide what is best for you. But like I said, I just want to make sure that there's transparency in this and that you have all the facts up front. So again, if what I was talking about is of interest to you, go to ondemand.criskacademy.com and just check out what they have and see if some of those may actually work for you. If you have any questions about this, leave comments below, or feel free to reach out and direct message me, and I'll try to answer your questions. So with that, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next video.